Our math journey continues. Today we are learning something called the percent equation. You know there are many different ways that we can work with percents. And so today this equation is a single equation that can solve any part of a percent problem. So what we're talking about is it's part equals percent times whole. That is the equation. Sometimes we might be missing our part and we'll solve for that. Sometimes we'll be missing our percent, and sometimes we're going to miss our whole. But with that single equation, we can solve for any one of those pieces. So let's start with finding a part. If we have a question that says, what number is 15% of 30? Well, remember, when we're taking a look at the part always follows the word is. When we're taking a look at the whole always follows the word of. So I'm looking for those two key words as I look at my question. So I see is, but then I see a percent. And if it's a percent, then that's got to be the percent. And when we're using the percent equation, we have to take that 15% and we have to change it to a decimal. And remember, the way that we do that is we replace that percent symbol with the decimal and we move it 2 places to the left, and that's where I get my 0.15. So now I see the word of, and then I see 30. Well, I know that of has to be my whole, so I just plug in the 30 where I see the whole. Now notice I'm missing one piece, and that one piece is my part. But all I have to do is solve my equation, and if I take my decimal of 1500ths, multiply it by 30, I get 4 5/10. That would be my part. So the one equation solved for my part. But sometimes I want to find my whole. So if I get 12 is 16% of what number? Well, my 16% stands. I can see that, and I'm going to change that to that decimal again. My part, I think, is at the very front, but I look for that word of, and I know whatever follows of is my whole. So when I see that, I don't know what follows of, so my whole has to be my variable or my x. Therefore, my other piece that has to be there is my 12. So again, I have one unknown with this. So when I go to solve this, this just sets up my equation. And I know that when I go and divide by 1600ths, whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. I get x equals 75. That would be my whole. So one equation solving for any piece. So let's go to the last part. What if I want to find my percent? Well, I'm still going to use that same equation. Part equals percent times whole. And I always start with that. Notice I wrote it every single time because it sets my format for what I'm doing. So here I see the word of, and I know whatever follows it has to be my whole. So I just plug it in for my whole. I see the word is, and whatever follows that has to be my part. So I plug it in for my part. What I'm missing today is that percent. That's my unknown. So when I go and I create my equation, 48 times x is 48x. I know I need to get this x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 48. And when I actually do my division, I'm going to get a decimal. But remember, I'm trying to find a percent. So in order to change that decimal back to a percent, I have to move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and I just place it. Once I've moved it, now I'm comparing it per 100. I just put my percent sign on, and I've solved for that. So with one equation called the percent equation, part equals percent times whole, I can find any unknown piece of that. The challenge is up to you. Are you ready to go?